You're listening to WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Noonan, Georgia, home of Braves Country with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks, weekdays, 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern, right here on The Key and YouTube.com at Braves Country.
Tom has been a teacher for over 40 years. One day, I think one of the students had asked the question and he didn't remember the answer. And I also noticed that he was letting his class out earlier than they were supposed to let out. I was really starting to worry.
Levi and I talked about how it would change our lives, but he was there beside me.
When something feels different, it could be Alzheimer's. Now is the time to talk. Visit alz.org/ourstories to learn more. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Hey folks, this is Mark White with The Mark White Show, and you can tune into The Mark White Show every Saturday from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. right here on Rock 99 WQEE The Key, the home of Southern sports and talk.
Are you looking for a reliable dental practice that not only cares about your teeth, but is friendly to work with? How about one that offers great deals and new patient promotions? Well, your search is over. Most Valuable Smiles in downtown Eatonton, Georgia is committed to giving you the biggest and brightest smile. Right now, get a $99 new patient special, including x-rays and exam. Maybe you're looking for veneers. Most Valuable Smiles veneer special includes one free veneer with every 5 purchased. Or get that bright white smile you've always wanted by taking advantage of an exclusive $100 off Zoom whitening treatment when you book today. And don't forget that 2022 is almost over. That means most insurance policies will reset by the new year, and to avoid losing that extra money, you need to use it or lose it. Book an appointment today with Most Valuable Smiles in downtown Eatonton to lock in these exclusive deals. Call 706-623-0318 or visit mostvaluablesmiles.com.
Enjoy sun-drenched days, epic stays, and plenty of room to roam in Greater Fort Lauderdale. Our hotels, attractions, and restaurants have taken the Visit Lauderdale's Safe and Clean pledge so you can relax and explore with confidence. When you're ready for that well-deserved staycation, our 23 miles of golden beaches await. Find wide-open spaces to hike, bike, kayak, and paddleboard. Visit your favorite attractions, then dine out in style in dining rooms or al fresco on waterfront patios. Learn more at sunny.org.
It all starts with just one thing. When recycling, rinse out jars and cans, and avoid recycling wax paper or paper soiled with food. This will reduce recycling contamination. Find tips and more at onethingus.com. What's your one thing?
Hey sports fans, The Key has a brand new show. Braves Country is coming your way weekdays 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern. Drive time on WQEE. Braves Country is a Southern sports talk show with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. We'll be talking the Atlanta Braves and Major League Baseball, along with everything important to sports fans in Braves Country. The SEC, ACC, Big Ten, and the National Football League, and the big sports news of the day. That's Braves Country with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. Weekdays, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. right here on WQEE The Key, 99.1 FM, and simulcasting on youtube.com/at Braves Country.
At Shell, we know from the time you get up to the time you wrap up,
good night,
there's a lot of meetups, eat-ups, and hurry-ups. So come to Shell and get 3 things done at once. Fill up with Shell V-Power Nitro Plus to help keep your engine running like new. Save up with the Fuel Rewards program and never pay full price for gas again. And snack up with in-store rewards to save even more at the pump. Make the most of the stop you need to make with Shell and engines that continuously use Shell V-Power Nitro Plus premium gasoline. See full terms and conditions at fuelrewards.com.
That's the sound of NyQuil Severe hard at work. NyQuil Severe is the best sleep with a cold medicine. No tossing and turning, just rest and recovery. So you're ready to take on tomorrow. For powerful relief of your worst cold and flu symptoms, try NyQuil Severe. The nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head, best sleep with a cold? Medicine. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Hey Braves fans, thank you for listening to Braves Country Baseball. Hi, I'm Mac McGee, and we are here to bring you play-by-play, pitch-by-pitch of your Atlanta Braves, bringing you spring training and 2 to 3 games a week all season long. Please like and subscribe today. Braves Country Baseball.
Winter is the perfect time to start planning for your healthy, pest-free spring lawn with True Green, America's #1 lawn care company. True Green's science-based approach and local expertise will help give your lawn the year-round care it needs to be thick and weed-free. Go to truegreen.com. Just call 866-946-5956 or go to truegreen.com today and get a lawn to be proud of.
Hey, sports fans, it's Rod Peterson here, host of The Rod Peterson Show, inviting you to join us daily for 2 hours of Atlanta's funnest sports talk right here on WQEE. I say fun because it is. You've never heard a show like it because we make the listeners a part of the show every day between noon and 2 p.m. Eastern. You'll hear plenty of the best sports talk, including the latest on the Falcons, the Braves, and more. And who knows, you might even hear you. That's the Rod Peterson Show, daily at noon, right here on WQEE 99.1 FM.
We live in a world now that welcomes and nurtures the screwball in all of us. Hey, it's a new decade, people. Time to get a little nutty. Treat yourself to Screwball Peanut Butter Whiskey, a smooth flavor that combines two of America's favorites, peanut butter and American whiskey. So no more social awkwardness. Time to embrace who you truly are. Get out there and make friends. And be sure it starts with Screwball Peanut Butter Whiskey. It's available nearly everywhere. Learn more at screwballwhiskey.com. Infidium Spirits. Please enjoy responsibly.
Hey, sports fans. The Key has a brand new show. Braves Country is coming your way weekdays 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern. Drive time on WQEE. Braves Country is a Southern sports talk show with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. We'll be talking the Atlanta Braves and Major League Baseball, along with everything important to sports fans in Braves Country. The SEC, ACC, Big Ten, and the National Football League. And the big sports news of the day. That's Braves Country with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. Weekdays, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. right here on WQEE, The Key, 99.1 FM. And simulcasting on youtube.com/@Braves Country.
It's the best in sports and entertainment, and get locked in and locked down with Rhino Radio Penitentiary, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. with your host, me, Ryan O'Neill, each and every morning, right here with the best in sports and entertainment, all the way from professional sports to college sports to River Dragons hockey and everything in between, including some of the very best local and national guests. It's the Rhino Radio Penitentiary, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Monday through Friday, right here on 99.1 FM WQEE.
You're listening to WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Noonan, Georgia.
Armchair. You're listening to the Armchair Quarterbacks Sports Radio, #1 sports station.
Good afternoon, and this is your Armchair Quarterbacks Sports Flash. Here are your NFL lines for Week 15 in the National Football League. Thursday night's 49ers-Seahawks game. Seattle is a 3.5-point underdog at home. The over-under 43. You got a triple header on Saturday, starting at 1 o'clock Eastern. Colts and Vikings. Indy on the road is getting 4. 48.5 is the over. The 4:30 tilt is Ravens versus Browns. Baltimore heads to Cleveland, giving up 3. The under's 37.5. Much anticipated in Buffalo, where the weather is expected to be in the low 30s at kickoff. The Dolphins are getting 7.5. The over-under is 42. Sunday's action, Cowboys-Jaguars. Dallas 4.5-point favorites on the road. Over-under 47.5. Chiefs and Texans. Kansas City, a 2-touchdown favorite on the road. Over-under 49. Eagles-Bears. Philly, 9-point favorites at Chicago. 48.5 is the over. Atlanta Falcons are getting 4 points in New Orleans. The over-under sits at 43. Lions and Jets, a big game for the AFC and NFC wild card race. It is an even pick'em. Over under 44.5. Steelers and Panthers at 1 o'clock. 2.5-point favorites are the Panthers at home. Over under 38.5. You've got a slew of late games this week. Titans are at the Chargers. Tennessee getting 3. 46.5 is the over. Bengals and Buccaneers, CBS game of the week. Cincinnati giving up 3.5 to Tom Brady and the boys. Over under is 44. And at 4:05, you've got Cardinals and Broncos along with Patriots and Raiders. The Broncos are a 3-point favorite, over under 36.5. While the Patriots are laying 1 in Vegas. 44.5 is the over-under. Your Sunday night game of the week, Giants and Commanders flexed in the nation's capital. Washington giving up 4.5 points. Over-under is 40. And that's your Armchair Quarterback Sports Flash. Stay tuned for Braves Country right here on WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Noonan, Georgia, simulcasting on youtube.com at Braves Country.
Armchair.
There's something kind of about a kid that's never played baseball.
We have been hoodwinked, bamboozled, and flat out deceived.
Why did you get so drunk?
You got drunk. I'm just really exhausted.
What's in that cup?
Rum and Cokes?
Do you have any idea how important this is? We're trying to save the pump cup. Really? This is what you're doing? This is what you're doing?
Chief, what do you want to do tonight?
The same thing we do every night. Try to take over the world.
106 miles to Chicago. We got a full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes. It's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses. Hit it.
Armchair.
YouTube Live.
Radio station.
The radio station you can call your own. Do you know what listeners like about our station?
I like everything. It's always on my radio.
We never stop the music, except for now, when I talk.
You're listening to Braves Country with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. We're here live weekdays, 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern, WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key. And simulcasting on youtube.com /at Braves Country. Your first choice for Southern sports. Hey, howdy, hi. And how the hell are you? I'm Mac McGee, and we have got a big show today. We're going to get into the AA interview from earlier this afternoon. Keep it locked in here on The Key.
Armchair.
Community Access Channel.
He's the armchair quarterback. He's full of beer and he's full of snacks. The all-American man.
Good afternoon, and I hope you're having a good Tuesday. Before we get started, I do want to give the Mike Leach family our thoughts and prayers as the terrible tragedy. If for some reason you have missed it, Mike Leach passed away at the age of 61. The news was reported this morning, and our hearts are all with them. Mike Leach, one of my all-time favorites. Justin will be with us on Thursday, and I do know that he is going to have a lot to say. So I kind of don't want to step on what he's going to bring to it, because I would argue that that's probably Justin's favorite coach, if not in history, right up there. Mike Leach from Susanville, Carolina, 61 years old, passes away, evidently had some kind of a massive heart attack at his home on Sunday. And if you're unfamiliar with his career, you know, I think he really made his name when he went to Texas Tech from 2009, kind of opened up the offense. And there's a little bit of controversy. Ended up moving over to Washington State from 2012 to 2019, and then left Washington State to get back down south, where he was beloved by the Mississippi State fans and the alumni and the players. And he finishes with 158 wins, 107 losses, 8-9 in bowl games. And he won the AFCA Coach of the Year in 2018, the George Munger Award in 2008, Woody Hayes Trophy in 2008, and the two-time Pac-12 Coach of the Year in 15 and 18. Also won the Big 12 Coach of the Year in 2008. So it's a somber day in Southeastern Conference football country as Mike Leach passes away at the age of 61. We're not going to worry about getting into what is going to transpire with Mississippi State football going forward, etc. We'll get into that down the road. But thoughts and prayers to his family. Trying to turn that page and move on. Got a lot of things going on in the world of sports, including Major League Baseball. When we were on the air yesterday, of course, the news broke that Atlanta had made a trade, a pretty significant trade, getting Sean Murphy from the Oakland A's. I'm still in the camp of I feel like we gave up too much, but maybe I'm a little nearsighted on this because I'm such a big fan of William Contreras, and I actually was pretty happy with what Kyle Muller was doing, Freddie Tarnock. So I feel like we gave up a lot, but I can understand why they did it because, look, let's be honest, AA is going for it all, and he's not looking to build towards the future, and I think he probably feels that Contreras was still a few years away from being an everyday catcher. My pushback on that would be you still had d'Arnaud under contract for this coming year. You had an elite bat in Contreras that you could put at the designated hitter role, and you could also give enough innings off for d'Arnaud by putting Contreras behind the plate, and he would continue to grow. That's my take on it. But when you start looking at all the numbers, and let's be fair. Not many people stay up late watching Oakland A's baseball, right? Especially at this time in history where they are one of the, I'm not going to say awful, but kind of non-existent franchises in sports. Now, every once in a while, they do seem to get more out of their players than what you expect. But at the same token, this is a team that looks like, I'm not even saying rebuilding, they tore it down. And so realistically, Sean Murphy's the last piece of a team. When you think back on what they had over the last several years, they've really traded away the entire house. But they've gotten some good young players back. I'm a little surprised that they would get William Contreras and move him to Milwaukee for Esther Ruiz. Ruiz is a nice player, a solid player. He doesn't have a lot of pop in his bat. He's got speed, but that's about it. And he has struggled on the major league level. And so that one is what shocks me more than anything else. Not that the Braves gave up what they gave up, because they obviously, when you value someone like a Sean Murphy that much, obviously the sky's like the limit. But I'm just in the camp of thinking it could have gotten done without having to unload all of that. But evidently, they really coveted Ruiz, and to get it done, that's what it took. So what it is, we move on from that as far as looking at that perspective. But I do want to play you some clips because Anthopoulos was interviewed today, and going to set these up, and then we'll react to them. The first one, in case you missed this, was the Anthopoulos's take on Murphy. Now, we've got several of these. We're probably going to share them throughout the week because I don't want to just hit you with a bunch of sound clips. But this is the first one on the trade itself, and then we'll react.
Yeah, we obviously great defensively, great player, no doubt about it, but great defensively. We value so much of what he does, the blocking, the receiving, the throwing, the game calling. And then you add Travis d'Arnaud to that, who so good at that, caught every inning of our World Series run, and really the glue to our clubhouse. You have a tandem like that with those two, and we've got DH at bats open. I just think we're going to be really strong, and those guys will be able to get some rest, stay fresh, and they should make the starters and the relievers much better. So it was expensive. We gave up a lot of really good players that we like quite a bit, but you got to give to get, right? And it was going to be expensive to get a player like.
Okay, so I get his take on it is basically saying if you want a guy and you really covet him, you're probably going to have to give something up. It's probably not a situation where you're just going to go in and eat, right? And just, you're not going to go in. This isn't fantasy sports where you can go in and trick someone who doesn't know anything about the sport, about the game, and get players and just rake it all in, or trade rape is the commonly used in fantasy sports. It's not typically going to happen. Now, you could have a situation when you're like, man, did they get a deal, after you look at it 5 years from now. But typically, when it goes down that day, that week, that month, etc., you're looking at the big picture overall, and you're looking at what the Braves had to give up. They had to give up several prospects. And I mentioned already the big ones. But you did get an elite defender. And I think that's what's being missed by a lot of fans. I think a lot of fans are getting in on the fact of, okay, I want to see the home runs, this runs scored, the RBIs, the, all the what I call basically fantasy stats, the OPS, the slug. But what is being lost by this, it is the most important defensive position in the game. And Atlanta just got, in a lot of people's opinion, the best. Now, JT Realmuto's up there. There's a few others. But bare minimum, he's top 5 in the game. And when you look at the fact that the Braves are going to go into a season where I kind of brought this up yesterday, but when you go into a season where, let's be honest, the division is a 3-horse race, the NL East, but you're also looking at the big picture, just making the playoffs, meaning you want one of the 3 wild cards if you can't win the division. Now, our goal is always to win the division, but let's say you fall short. When you get into the playoffs, I've got to assume Philly and the Mets are going to be in there. And I've got to assume most likely the Cardinals and the Dodgers are going to be there. And the way it's looking now, you're going to be fighting it out with the Padres. And there's always going to be a 3rd or 4th team that's fighting out for the wild card. In today's game going into 2023, and obviously we'll do our picks next season going into the season. We usually do our preseason predictions around March. I have to double check and see where remember this year we've got the World Baseball Classic, which is going to interfere with a lot of things as far as getting ready for the season for Major League Baseball. But when you go into that race and you go into the playoffs, looking towards the playoffs, because the Braves are they're no longer a team that's just trying to make the playoffs and that would be great and let's celebrate. This is a team that for the foreseeable future, it's World Series championship or bust, or at least National League pennant or bust in their minds. Now, that does not mean that if they do not get a World Series championship, that the season's a failure. But this is what happens when you smell some success and you're up there on the upper echelon. You're now going to be viewed as, did you have a successful year? By did you win at all? You look at, if you want to flip over to college football, the Alabama Crimson Tide is going to the Sugar Bowl and had a heck of a season, 10 wins, but their fan base and the coaching staff, they do look at the 2022 college football season as a bust. So that's where we're at right now with Braves country, is the Braves are going to be looking at this season, how do we win the championship? If you get in the playoffs and you can get to the playoffs and you get these championship matchups, all those teams that I mentioned are adding speed. And there's a lot of reasons. One of the things is you're going to have no longer the shift, which means balls batted on the ground or have a more likelihood of getting through the hole, especially if you have speed on the base paths. The other thing would be the bases are going to be a little bigger, not by much. I don't think all of a sudden someone's going to steal 120 bases. But it's going to be imperative to have a defense, and that's what they looked at. And I don't think they wanted to give up Darno. I also don't think that his trade value was as high. He's more valuable to the Atlanta Braves than he is to the other 29 teams in Major League Baseball because of what he brings to the locker room, the way he mans the pitching staff. And let's be honest, he's a clutch hitter, but that doesn't necessarily jump off the page when you're talking about trades. What jumps off the page is a young kid like Contreras, and so that's what we had to lose. But I do understand where he's coming from. He's basically saying you had to give up something. These trades always hurt. It just felt like last year's trade when we got Olsen, which is a great player in his own right, didn't feel like we gave up quite as bit. It didn't feel like that we gave up what could have been a cornerstone of the franchise for years to come. But that is where we're at now, and so we move forward. All right, the next little clip that I'm going to play is Anthopoulos on Swanson in the shortstop position. Here we go.
You know, I obviously, when it comes to free agents, I can't get into any specifics, but I would say this. Right now on the roster, we've got Orlando Arcia, Vaughn Grissom that we think can handle the position. If we don't do anything from the outside, whether that's sign someone or trade for someone, those guys will compete. No one will get handed that job. Orlando Arcia has done it before with the Brewers, with playoff teams. Vaughn Grissom, we like his long-term upside. But, you know, we know that if we do end up having to play him there, there'll be some growing pains. That being said, we still want to get better. And one way to get better is at shortstop position. So if there's a way to add from the outside, whether that's free agency or trade, we're still going to be open to doing that.
So there you have that. And I'll be honest with you, the tone of the interview, obviously I'm not going to play the whole thing, but the tone of the interview, he was asked during that question, we assumed that Dansby Swanson is not coming back, and Anthopoulos, who's very good at these interviews, pivoted and tried to change the subject, but basically tried to say right now we're looking at who we have in house and we're still going to make an effort, right, to bring others possibly. But the tone felt like what most of us who cover the Braves, follow the Braves, and even the outsiders have felt for quite some time. Dansby Swanson's not coming back. And it's a shame because one of my favorite players over the years. There's a number of reasons why, not just because he's from the Atlanta area, but he went to college in Nashville and loved it when they made the trade for him years ago. He's been a leader. He's been clutch. I know there are fans that will get on these social media and they will try and claim that he's not as valuable as we know him to be. The fact of the matter is the man has been clutch for the last few years. He is a major reason we won the World Series. He and a number of people are why we won the World Series, and we would not have won the World Series without Dansby Swanson. You can also say that about a lot of players on the team. I'm not just saying he's the only one. That would be foolish for me to even imply. But with all that being said, and you put that away, you look at the numbers for the Braves, I just don't think that they're going to go Swanson. And I've got a clip that may shock y'all when we come back about a rumor that is going around about the Atlanta Braves, about who they may be moving off of our team. And it is one of the cornerstones that's being rumored that could be traded. We will be back in a flash here on Braves Country on the Key and wherever you stream Braves Country HD. We'll be back in just a moment. Keep it locked in here. You don't want to miss this.
Hello there, Fraser. Oh, what fresh hell is this?
Tom has been a teacher for over 40 years. One day, I think one of the students had asked the question and he didn't remember the answer. And I also noticed that he was letting his class out earlier than they were supposed to let out. I was really starting to worry.
Levi and I talked about how it would change our lives, but he was there beside me.
When something feels different, it could be Alzheimer's. Now is the time to talk. Visit alz.org/ourstories to learn more. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
It's the best in sports and entertainment, and get locked in and locked down with Rhino Radio Penitentiary, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. with your host, me, Ryan O'Neill, each and every morning, right here with the best in sports and entertainment, all the way from professional sports to college sports to River Dragons hockey and everything in between, including some of the very best local and national guests. It's the Rhino Radio Penitentiary, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Monday through Friday, right here on 99.1 FM WQEE.
Your true friends are the people in your life that totally get your inside jokes, your unique style, most important, what you want to eat. Taco Bell knows that when you get together with your real friends, it doesn't matter what you're doing, but hey, it might as well be something that everybody can get into, like the Taco and Burrito Cravings Pack with 4 crunchy tacos and 4 beefy 5-layer burritos. So even if you're all sitting around doing absolutely nothing, you know you'll still have a good time. It's Taco Bell's Taco and Burrito Cravings Pack. Get it for the friends that get it.
At Shell, we know from the time you get up to the time you wrap up,
Good night.
there's a lot of meetups, eat-ups, and hurry-ups. So come to Shell and get 3 things done at once. Fill up with Shell V-Power Nitro Plus to help keep your engine running like new. Save up with the Fuel Rewards program and never pay full price for gas again. And snack up with in-store rewards to save even more at the pump. Make the most of the stop you need to make with Shell and engines that continuously use Shell V-Power Nitro Plus premium gasoline. See full terms and conditions at fuelrewards.com.
You're listening to WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Noonan, Georgia, home of Braves Country with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks, weekdays, 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern, right here on The Key and YouTube.com at Braves Country.
Why don't you go to church?
Let me tell you something. I practice being a good person every day, okay? I'm a decent fellow. I do good things. I always leave a big tip. If a squirrel runs in front of the car, do I not swerve? I'm considerate of people's feelings. Remember the plumber who came over with the big eye? I treated him like a completely normal person, okay? So why do I have to go to church every Sunday to prove my goodness? I'm living it.
Well, you know, since you are so good during the week, maybe on Sundays, we should have everybody come over here and sit around you.
He's been flying here since August, running hot, running cold, and 30 friends are on alert. That's all the den will hold. He's the armchair quarterback. He's full of beer.
Welcome back as we are coming to you live on 99.1 FM The Key and wherever you stream. I see there's some kind of issue with the someone mentioned this to me on the Facebook stream, so I'm going to get to the bottom of it. Long story short, you can't comment right now, and that was not intentional. I'm not really sure what they did, but it is what it is. We'll get it figured out. Here is the clip that I was talking about earlier. And this clip shocked a lot of people this morning. And this was on national television on Jim Callis of MLB.com on who he thought the Braves might be ready to move. Listen to this.
The rumor I'm hearing, I don't know that it's going to be imminent. You know, with the Braves payroll climbing, you know, who knows if they'll sign Murphy to an extension. I'm hearing some Max Fried rumors on the block that they may not be able to sign him long term. Don't be shocked if we see a Max Fried trade this offseason.
I mean, first of all, I don't know if I believe any of that. The other immediate thing that I think of when I hear this. What? What are you talking about? Moving Max Fried? So I don't know if I believe it, because I'll tell you one of the things that I think of initially is, if they're going to move Max Fried, why in the world would you go to make a move to bring in an elite defensive catcher because you're making a run at the World Series? Max Fried was the guy that won Game 6 of the World Series. Max Fried is under control for the next few years. If you don't get a deal done, you don't get it done. You maybe that's something you think about towards the end of his contract. But what in the world, if the Braves move Max Fried, whoever gets him should not take the trade, because there's something wrong. Anthopoulos is only moving Max Fried if there's something wrong. It makes absolutely no sense. And look, the guy that said it works for MLB.com. So you essentially have to believe everything he says as far as being some kind of validity to it. But at the same token, I almost had to think to myself, he's absolutely off his rocker. He's absolutely off his rocker. Because I do not see how there's any way in the world Max Fried is going to be able to be moved and the fan base stay even remotely, and I mean remotely, okay with it. So, anyways, that's what we have there. And I have a hard time believing it. But if for some reason they moved Max Fried, as low as he's getting paid right now, and the way that they're constructed, well, who could you possibly get in return that would make it okay for Max Fried to be moved? He finished top 3 in Cy Young votes. You're talking about making a run at the World Series. So I do see a reply by Buster Olney, by the way, and he's obviously well respected. He said that the Braves are not entertaining a trade of their ace Max Fried, which I could have told you the moment I heard it, but I had to get it recorded, because when I hear goofy things in the morning, I want y'all to hear them too. First of all, because I want to make sure that I'm not hearing things. Maybe I need to go lie down. Maybe I need to go get some therapy, because when you're in the middle of your morning routine, I about tripped and broke my neck on the treadmill this morning when I heard Max Fried getting possibly moved. And I was like, it's one of those, say it ain't so, Joe. Say it ain't so. You're going to move Max Fried from a rotation that just locked up Spencer Strider long-term, has a chance to really make a good run next year. I still feel like we're an elite pitcher away to become a favorite. Not that we couldn't do it, but we need another elite pitcher to make a run, because I do suspect Spencer Strider should pitch very well this year, but I also feel like the league might catch up with him a little bit. And unless he develops a third and fourth dominant pitch that he can rely on consistently, there might be some regression this year. I think his talent's phenomenal, and he's a bulldog, and I love the kid, but you have to be realistic. What he did last year, not many humans have done in the history of Major League Baseball. So let's be real about it. You also wonder about Kyle Wright. Can he put back-to-back good seasons after a career that had been just marred with basic inconsistency. Now, he was phenomenal last year, 21-game winner. Not knocking that at all. But then when you talk about the next main factor in that rotation at this point is Charlie Morton coming off a broken leg and doing what he did last year, I thought was remarkable. But he's also getting long in the tooth. So you don't know what he's going to have. And he got hammered in the playoff game. But I don't beat him up for that. And I don't beat Max Fried up for the game one, because a lot of things that have been forgotten about that Max Fried thing is that he had been very sick and maybe he shouldn't have pitched. But I understood why they pitched him. But maybe he should not have pitched game one. And maybe when you got to game 3, maybe it should have been a situation where Spencer Strider, once he got into a little bit of trouble in that third inning, they probably should have pulled him. But hindsight's always 20/20, and you can't beat the team up. They did an incredible job. They won the National League East. No one thought they had a chance. And remember something, Max Fried's under contract till the end of 2024, not 2023. So do I think Max Fried's going to be a lifelong Brave? Probably not. Because I do believe that the young man, when he hits 2024, he's going to be 30 years old, and he's going to be looking for that big payday from somebody. And when you look at the money that's being thrown around, there's no telling. It's going to be crushing, because we've all become big Max Fried's fans. One of my most favorite memories of that championship was the championship parade and the Max Fried with the cigar and the beanie. Everybody had to go out and get that. Heck, I've got the beanie because I had to have one because it became iconic. But sometimes you're going to have to move on if you want to continue to compete. But that's not this year. He's 29, estimated salary for the arbitration looks to be around 12. That's according to Spot Track. So it's going to be doable. So, but I had to play that clip because I about came out of my shoes when I saw that Max Fried was being talked about, even entertained being a trade when he's still 2 years away from. Look, if it happens next off season, or maybe next year at the trading deadline, or if something terrible happens and the Braves are not any good for whatever strange reason this year, and you get to the trading deadline and you feel like you're out of it, okay, I can swallow, but not going into the 2023 season, 1 year removed from the World Series championship, another division title, and the odds-on favorite by most to still win the National League East, even with all the moves that the Mets and Phillies have made. Now, when you get to opening day betting line, it wouldn't shock me if more money gets thrown on and it gets moved around and you end up with the Phillies or the Mets as the betting favorite. But right now, the people in the know in this sport believe that the Braves are still the team to beat, because it's the old saying, to be the man, you got to beat the man, and no one has beaten them yet in a 162-game season. The Phillies got us in a best-of-5 series. And not to take anything away from them, but the Braves were walking wounded after that incredible run, and maybe we shouldn't have worried so much about winning the division. But it's easy to say that now. At the time, you were looking at it as, man, if you can win that division and you get that time off, you can get healthy. Well, that's not what happened. They got the time off, and it wasn't quite enough time, and they went in there and they didn't play a good series. Didn't take nothing away from the Phillies, but the Braves did not play a good series. And they ran into a buzzsaw, a hot team. So that was something that was dropped, and it was not addressed to Anthopoulos in this part of the interview when he's being asked about the rotation. So mind you, that comment took place around 4 hours before the Anthopoulos interview, and he was never asked about the possibility of trading Max Fried. But here we go. This is Anthopoulos on the rotation for this year.
Yeah, the upside is just huge. And I was talking to Max Fried today, and just about how Ian Anderson and Soroka, the fact that those guys right now are scheduled to compete with guys like Colby Allard and Bryce Elder as well, but just with their track record and what they've done, clearly Ian Anderson and Soroka will be the guys that I think definitely have are front runners for that spot, for the 5 spot. And Ian Anderson, our game 2 starter for the playoffs 2020. Soroka in the Cy Young conversation, his first full season in 2019. Like you said, it's been a while. He was just here in Atlanta the other day throwing. He feels great. So they all have options, and we can go with a hot hand at any time. If they both look unbelievable, or Ballard looks unbelievable, or Bryce Elder, there's a scenario we could go with a 6-man rotation. It's not ideal, and it's tough to do in terms of you being able to take away a guy from the bullpen. But that's the hope, that these guys perform and they're good, and we have depth at starter spot. And we're definitely excited because the upside for those guys is huge.
So there you have it, straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak, right? There's just no way that he's entertaining a trade for Max Fried when he's talking about, literally, you hear it from Anthopoulos saying, I had a conversation with Fried today about the depth of the rotation. Why would he be talking to a guy, getting his insight, getting his opinion, if he's gonna move him? There's too many other question marks in the rest of the end of the rotation. And I do believe the Braves have enough pitching where I know a lot of fans want to see them go out and get Rodon, and I get it. He's a great pitcher. And he's the one pitcher that Atlanta could add to the rotation that would make them over the top. The rest of the pitchers that were out there are signed, and the others that are available, they're good, but it's not to say that they're any better than what we have at the back of our rotation right now. And you'd have to pay him a heck of a lot more, because when you look at how Elder pitched down the stretch last year, and if they can get Ian Anderson right, those are 2 really big options that you could put at the end of the rotation. But I guess it really will come down to, when we get closer to the regular season, if Anthopoulos thinks that he can't rely on one of the, and remember, you need like 7 or 8 pitchers, starting pitchers, to make it through a 162 game season, because no one ever starts a 5-man rotation and all 5 of them go to the post every single time. So you have to have that depth. It would be a bump. We were daydreaming yesterday about if Corbin Burns could be a part of that deal, or a number of other players. But it wasn't that realistic. It's just more pie in the sky stuff. But right now, the way your rotation is built, the top 4 guys are solid to elite. You need to figure out that last rotation, and really it comes down to Elder or Ian Anderson at this point. And there's a couple of others that could make a move, but one of the guys that you thought might be in the mix was Kyle Muller, and he's obviously going to be out in Oakland. All right, we're going to take a really quick break. When we come back, we're going to do some football, because we're heading towards week 15. We're heading towards college bowl season. The college bowls start Friday. We're going to take a look at some of the injuries and then also some of the lines. We'll be back in a flash here on Braves Country, Armchair Quarterback Radio, and the Key 99.1 FM.
He only has 3 rings.
Hockey season, and that means new merch over at ourdragonsmerch.com. Get the latest designs and some of our fun new souvenirs ahead of what's sure to be a great hockey season. Celebrate another season of River Dragons hockey by getting a new look to wear on game days, or surprise the big-time sports fan in your life with a new keepsake that will make them a River Dragons fan for life. Order online right now at ourdragonsmerch.com. That's the letter R, dragonsmerch.com. We'll see you at the rink.
Hey, sports fans, it's Rod Peterson here, host of The Rod Peterson Show, inviting you to join us daily for 2 hours of Atlanta's funnest sports talk right here on WQEE. I say fun because it is. You've never heard a show like it because we make the listeners a part of the show every day between noon and 2 p.m. Eastern. You'll hear plenty of the best sports talk, including the latest on the Falcons, the Braves, and more. And who knows, you might even hear you. That's the Rod Peterson Show, daily at noon, right here on WQEE 99.1 FM.
Le'Veon Bell, he put out a single for people to listen to on Twitter of a rap album that he's really proud of. He asked for people to critique it. Keenan Allen, the receiver of the Chargers, came back with the trash emoji.
Appreciate your honesty.
And what's even better, and I can't do it justice because we're on radio, you've got to see the video. The video that he put up. Oh, my God. It's like the most funny and exciting thing I have ever seen because it's like really bad late 80s, early 90s rap video. But anyways, the video is the best part of the whole thing. He's got a hoodie on. It's staged almost like black and white. He's like under a bridge somewhere where there's like a bonfire going.
Hard times.
So like, yeah.
Hard times.
You know, hard times for a guy making millions.
He can relate.
But the funniest part is when he's got the hoodie on, he's doing poses and stuff like that and kind of jiving around. And then this is the funniest part. Out of nowhere, sorry, I can't get it out. He comes up from under the screen. So in other words, like
Like
his,
from the Muppets or something?
Almost like the Muppets.
When you see just the figure just come straight up.
Yes, the gig coming straight up while he's also in the background.
Uh-huh.
It's like the worst thing put together ever. I don't know how to edit a video. We could do better than this. I'm telling you.
Who's the director, Pouncey?
Armchair.
Welcome back to Braves Country. Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. Weekdays, 3 to 5 p.m. Drive time on WQEE. Tuesday in the middle of December. Get your shopping done. News has come in officially, by the way. Kyler Murray torn ACL out for the season. Everyone kind of figured that. You watched last night's game. Man, the guys were dropping like flies out there. Patriots went on and thumped the Cardinals in Arizona. Of course, they were Kyler Murray-less Cardinals, but I don't know if that would have mattered. 27-13 was the final. And of course, if you're in fantasy football, you're heading towards your playoffs. So we'll be talking a little bit about that tomorrow. Stephen Church is going to join us for about 20 minutes in the first hour. And we're going to get some fantasy football talk. And obviously that always leans towards betting. Speaking of betting, go to betus.com today, and we got our pick of the day. Celtics bounce back game. They're minus 165 on the money line versus the Lakers. It is in LA. But we've got the link in our chat, and if you use that link, you will get a bonus from BetUS on sign up. So go there today. It's too long of a link for me to just kind of say it out and for you to memorize it. So just go to one of our Braves Country HD on YouTube, and we have put it in the chat. I think the Celtics are going to bounce back. They got beat up pretty bad last night by the Clippers. And I watched till towards the tail end of the game. Tail end of the game started bringing starters out. And I just figured that they're going to absolutely bounce back. If you haven't watched Celtics this year, they are an impressive bunch. That Malcolm Brogdon that came over this year in the trade, he has been phenomenal. He's more of like a sixth man off the bench type of thing going on. When you hit the playoffs, we'll see how they deploy him. But as of right now, he's just making them an extremely deep team. Remember during the offseason, everyone thought that the Celtics might trade Jaylen Brown to the Nets to bring in KD. Well, that's no longer even thought of, because KD, first of all, KD, yeah, he's still a great player, but he's aging. And when you consider what the Celtics have done, it's pretty impressive where they are right now, considering that they should be the one with the championship hangover, and it looks like it's Golden State. Now, Golden State got the big W on Saturday night against the Celtics, but it was a home game. You kind of have to hold serve. But the Celtics are, at this point, running away with the East. We'll see if that keeps up. Okay, to some football, because let's be honest, football is always king. And when you go to hit week 15 in the National Football League, you have got some questions that need to be answered if your team's not in it. And if your team is in it, then you've got some huge games. One thing I do want to bring up was reported out today, just kind of the ins and outs of the Falcons roster. The Atlanta Falcons need to release or get rid of, and most likely they're going to have to release Marcus Mariota by March 19th of next year to avoid a $3 million roster bonus, and it will save $12 million off the cap space. And the reason why I bring that up is because Desmond Ridder is getting his first start this week. And you can pretty much bet, come hell or high water, Mariota's not going to be on the team anymore, because they don't want to have to pay him not just the bonus, but they want to get him off the dead cap. So Ritter's going to have a real chance in Atlanta to make a run with these Falcons, and maybe, look, if he gets some W's, you never know. You never know. Because if you look at that entire NFL standings, if Tampa Bay loses this weekend, which is a very strong possibility, they're at home, but they're playing Cincinnati, who's playing out of their mind. I think Cincinnati's won like 5 in a row. They've kind of shored up that defense. Joe Burrow's starting to be Joe Cool once again. I believe Cincinnati's going to go in and get the win. I would have given the Buccaneers a much better chance to pull off the upset until I saw them this past Sunday. I mean, that was atrocious. That was absolutely atrocious. So if the Bengals win and beat the Bucks, and the Falcons find a way to beat the Saints, and let's be honest, there's a good chance the Panthers are going to beat the Steelers at home, we're going to have a 3-way tie in the NFC South. 3 wide going down the stretch, as they would say in NASCAR. And I know a lot of folks may not be all that excited about the possibility of all 3 of those teams, or any of those teams, making the playoffs, I should say. But anytime you get a good division matchup, I think it's worth it. I love seeing the playoff push down the stretch. I really do. And even if whoever wins this doesn't hit 500, I still think it's fun to watch the games themselves because they mean something. Maybe it's the better in me, but I love hard-hitting football in December and January when it means something, even if it means that someone who you may not view as a great addition, but someone that can, or to the playoffs, when they're fighting it out in that final weekend, the final 2 weekends, the final 3 weekends, it makes it for really fun football. And so looking at this entire slate, and you look at the Falcons, and the Falcons are getting 4 points in New Orleans. I really like the Falcons in that game because I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. Of course, Desmond Ridder could absolutely shock some folks. The problem with the Falcons, if you look at the big picture of this, you want to make sure, if you're Atlanta, that you don't come down to any kind of tiebreaker when it comes to the division. Because the Falcons right now are 1-3 in the division. The Panthers are 3-1. The Buccaneers are 3-1. And it's going to be really hard to. That's why that Steelers game was so big. It's not because of beating the Steelers and, a do or die type of situation there. But now you've got 4 games left in the season, and it feels like you need to win 3 or 4. And possibly 4 or 4 because you're 1 game behind the Bucs. But you definitely need to win 2 of 3 bare minimum going into that final game against the Bucs, and hope that the Buccaneers lose 2 of their next 3. Because, and look, it's possible, but here's what they're looking at. This weekend, they're at New Orleans, and then they've got another tough game on Christmas Eve at the Ravens. But they're going to face the Saints with the Red Rocket, who's played admirably if you look at it from a game manager type standpoint, but the Saints offense has not been explosive. So you've got a chance to pull off that upset. You go to Baltimore, they're not expecting Lamar Jackson back until after the Atlanta game, which means Tyler Huntley, or he may not even be in the game because he got pulled out from a concussion protocol. We'll get more on that as the week unfolds, but there's no telling who the quarterbacks. I don't think it's going to be Lamar Jackson. By that time, Huntley will probably play, and Huntley is a solid backup, but he's not Lamar Jackson. Few people are. And then you're going to get a home game with the Arizona Cardinals, an early kickoff, a West Coast, East Coast, and they don't have Kyler Murray anymore, which is what would worry you on the turf, running around trying to catch him. Well, the road runner is out of commission. He's done for the year with an ACL tear. So those 3 games, the Falcons haven't played very good football, so I can't imagine that they're going to sweep those 3 games. But 2 out of 3 is reasonable. If you can get 2 out of 3, and you look at the Bucs schedule, and you need the Bucs to lose 2 out of 3 so that you would be even with Tampa Bay, because you're not going to win any kind of a tiebreaker. The Bucs have the Bengals. They're at the Cardinals on Christmas night. You got to figure they're going to beat the Cardinals. But then a very tough game against the Panthers. So you're pulling for the Panthers to beat the Bucs, right? But what that means is, and that's why I love these division race styles. That means that you got to figure out, got to get a couple of losses on the Panthers. The Panthers are home against the Steelers, and then Christmas Eve against a red-hot Lions team. And then they're going to finish the season at the Saints. So you'd love to see them beat the Steelers, but I do think Carolina's got a very good chance of beating them. At that point, that Lions game becomes critical for them to lose because you're pulling for the Bucs to lose to the Panthers. But because they're in a dead-footed tie with the Panthers right now, Atlanta just has to make sure of the next 4 games that they win more than the Panthers. And that the Bucs lose 2 more. Does that mean that the Falcons are going to have to run the table? Crazier things have happened when you put a young quarterback in that position. And I think Desmond Ridder is going to be one of those gamer types, and I'm excited to watch the kid play. I think there's a very good chance that Desmond Ridder goes out this weekend and gets a W, and then you kind of go from there. But the NFC South, though they're not impressive, it might become the most fun divisional playoff stretch because all 3 teams, and if the Saints go on a little bit of a run, they could back their way into the playoffs. The Bucs look absolutely human. They do not look what they looked a few years ago when they won the Super Bowl. They've got a lot of the same players, but they've got a lot of injuries, and they are having a hard time keeping folks off of Tom Brady. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Joey Ariel is going to join us, and we're going to be talking some NFL. We're going to get into some AFC playoff talk and a lot more ahead here on Braves Country. Keep it locked in. We will be back in a flash.
Armchair. You're listening to the Armchair Quarterback Sports Radio, #1 sports station.
Good afternoon, and this is your Armchair Quarterbacks Sports Flash. Here are your NFL lines for Week 15 in the National Football League. Thursday night's 49ers-Seahawks game. Seattle is a 3.5-point underdog at home. The over-under 43. You got a triple header on Saturday, starting at 1 o'clock Eastern, Colts and Vikings. Indy on the road is getting 4. 48.5 is the over. The 4:30 tilt is Ravens versus Browns. Baltimore heads to Cleveland, giving up 3. The under's 37.5. Much anticipated in Buffalo, where the weather is expected to be in the low 30s at kickoff. The Dolphins are getting 7.5. The over-under is 42. Sunday's action, Cowboys-Jaguars, Dallas 4.5-point favorites on the road, over-under 47.5. Chiefs and Texans, Kansas City, a 2-touchdown favorite on the road, over under 49. Eagles, Bears, Philly, 9-point favorites at Chicago, 48.5 is the over. Atlanta Falcons are getting 4 points in New Orleans. The over under sits at 43. Lions and Jets, a big game for the AFC and NFC wild card race. It is an even pick'em, over under 44.5. Steelers and Panthers at 1 o'clock, 2.5-point favorites are the Panthers at home, over under 38.5. You've got a slew of late games this week. Titans are at the Chargers, Tennessee getting 3, 46.5 is the over. Bengals and Buccaneers, CBS game of the week, Cincinnati giving up 3.5 to Tom Brady and the boys, over under is 44. And at 4:05, you've got Cardinals and Broncos along with Patriots and Raiders. The Broncos are a 3-point favorite, over under 36.5. While the Patriots are laying 1 in Vegas, 44.5 is the over-under. Your Sunday night game of the week, Giants and Commanders flexed in the nation's capital. Washington giving up 4.5 points, over-under is 40. And that's your Armchair Quarterback Sports Flash. Stay tuned for Braves Country right here on WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Noonan, Georgia, simulcasting on YouTube.com at Braves Country. You're listening to WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Noonan, Georgia.
Are you looking for a reliable dental practice that not only cares about your teeth, but is friendly to work with? How about one that offers great deals and new patient promotions? Well, your search is over. Most Valuable Smiles in downtown Eatonton, Georgia is committed to giving you the biggest and brightest smile. Right now, get a $99 new patient special, including x-rays and exam. Maybe you're looking for veneers. Most Valuable Smiles veneer special includes 1 free veneer with every 5 purchased. Or get that bright white smile you've always wanted by taking advantage of an exclusive $100 off Zoom whitening treatment when you book today. And don't forget that 2022 is almost over. That means most insurance policies will reset by the new year, and to avoid losing that extra money, you need to use it or lose it. Book an appointment today with Most Valuable Smiles in downtown Eatonton to lock in these exclusive deals. Call 706-623-0318 or visit mostvaluablesmiles.com.
Hey, sports fans. Weekdays, 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern. Drive time on WQEE. Braves Country is a Southern sports talk show with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. That's Braves Country with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. Weekdays, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. right here on WQEE 99.1 FM.
Someone was actually able to deceive me once. St. Olaf's most famous OBMAG.
What's that?
Obstetrician magician. The amazing Shapiro. He delivered Bridget. But it was so confusing. It's a girl. Now it's a dove. Now it's a glass of milk.
Well, the season's finally here, and the players hit the field. And every man feels like a boy, and every
Welcome back.
Because he's the armchair quarterback. He's full of
Braves
beer,
Country on
full of
Armchair
snacks,
Quarterback
the
Radio,
All-American.
coming to you live on the Key, 99.1 FM. And joining us today is Mr. Joey. Joey, how are you, sir?
Doing pretty good. Glad to be on once again. And it's kind of been a tough day with, I'm sure it's been mentioned many times by many outlets, but the Leach news was obviously saddening for all football fans. I mean, in the prime of my sporting career of watching from Texas Tech in the mid-2000s all the way through to now, that's just one coach that you always seem to follow. Even if you don't follow him, he always pops up for, better reasons than not with his comedic relief. And just the way he approached press conferences, I'm sure people have seen many of videos today, but a sombering yet sad day for sports fans.
Yeah, it was rough. I mentioned a little bit at the top of the show, but you can never say enough about Mike Leach and what he meant to college football, not just Mississippi State, but every stop he made, and then just fans of teams that didn't even have a dog in the hunt when it came to Mike Leach. He loved watching his interviews. He reminds me, it was a different personality, but it reminded me of his years ago when I was a Florida State fan. A lot of fans would at me with, there was obviously a lot of hatred and jealousy with Florida State in the 90s because they were so good. But the one consistency that they always had was, but man, I love Bobby Bowden, right? Because it was just his personality. And it's the same thing with Leach. Leach never got to that elite level at any of his. He had some good teams. He had a couple really good teams at Texas Tech. And then he had the incident where he had to step away, which I still think might have been a little overblown. And then he resurfaced at Washington State. By the way, Washington State was a dead university, a dead program.
Yes.
And he revived it.
Yep.
Nobody wanted to go to Washington State. So he made them relevant again and made them exciting. And then he catapulted his way into Mississippi State. And it made me care about the Egg Bowl for the first time in forever when you had him and Pippen going. I used to not care about the Egg Bowl. Man, I was watching all of their press conferences leading up to the Egg Bowl. So we lose a lot. obviously, the prayers go out to the family and the friends. Don't forget the friends, because the friends are always hit just as hard as everyone always worries about the family. I always think about this. Everyone always worries about the family when something like this. No one thinks about the best friends and the really close friends, because a lot of folks, and I'm pretty much the same way, I would consider a lot of my very close friends family, as much as I don't consider some of my close family friends.
No, hey, as an Italian myself, we got a lot of that goes on. So I feel you on that one. Even the shocking news, not to keep going on it, but I mean, he's just was such a great man. But like the last couple weeks, he was probably doing things pretty regularly. And, you just have, unfortunately, a heart attack, or what they said, came across, and it happens, and things just change in an instant. So that was just it's just like you take a step back and think about it, like, wow, this man was operating at a normal pace until the last few days when this all went down. Just a shame.
Yeah. And it's always tough to move on, but that's what we do here at Sports Talk. We try to liven people's days up and get them informed and entertained. And I'll tell you what, it's so much. You know what? Of all the stuff that went on yesterday that nobody's talking about, the Minnesota Twins were able to pry Christian Vazquez away from the Red Sox, because the Red Sox had a real interest in bringing him back, and they did not make an honest offer.
I wanted him in the Cubs too.
But Vazquez, to me, is a lot like Travis d'Arnaud with the Braves, where you may not understand what he means to the clubhouse because you're looking at his stats, but the guy is a clubhouse leader, and I am just shocked that when did the Boston Red Sox become Oakland Athletics East? They are getting outbid and outplayed by everybody. It was just a few years ago. I'm gonna have to bring up pull up a post here in a second. Someone sent me. It was pretty humorous. But when did the Red Sox all of a sudden? Well, they just throw up their hands and they can't compete. It is one of the strangest things. They don't have a big signing yet, and I really thought that they might be one of the ones that could be in on Trey Turner, Dansby, because it looked like they weren't bringing back Xander, and I don't blame anyone for not bringing back Xander, but you probably could have gotten Xander before it got to that point a couple of years ago, right?
Right.
Xander is getting well overpaid, and good for him. The San Diego Padre front office, there's no other word for it. They're stupid, man. they're not smart. They're what did he sign? 10 or 11 for 280? A guy who's in his early 30s already. At the end of his contract, I know they said the end of his contract is going to be 41. And getting paid elite money.
It's insanity. I mean, like you're talking about the Red Sox, right?
You almost have to have a guarantee from him. All right, we're going to give you this money, but you have got to cheat. Like, you've got to do some HGH. Because you were going to suck so bad when you hit around 37. we need you to get in there with Tatis, find out what he's on, see if there's other ways to get around this, because you are going to be absolutely awful.
Yeah, and getting to your, a point on the Red Sox and kind of what they're doing, I know they're in a different position, but I feel that.
Go ahead.
No, I just feel the same way about the Cubs. Vasquez was a guy like myself. We needed a catcher. We're in the shortstop market, like Turner, Bogarts with Boston, and we're not making the big trigger move either. I know it's overpaying these people. I'll be interested to see what Swanson and Correa end up getting. But I mean, hey, if you have a lot of money, you got to spend it at some point. And I'm kind of getting restless with not spending any money while these other 4 or 5 teams just keep on spending, when I know a team like the Cubs and Red Sox have it in them to make it happen.
Okay, let me see if I can share this, because it's pretty humorous and I kind of want you to be able to see it.
Okay.
I want to make sure that I'm not sharing the wrong thing, getting some weird.
God.
Sometimes when I go inside these things, okay, I think we're pretty good. All right, let me see what we got here. So, well, obviously, for folks who aren't watching us on our YouTube channel, we will read it off to you. But I want you to be able to see this because it's pretty funny, and it's obviously it's overreaction by fans, but it's still funny. Now watch this. Okay. Am I sharing the right? No, I'm not sharing the right thing. Give me a second. All right. Sure. The wrong screen. We'll do it again. New to this particular streaming device. They don't make it. It's one thing about the old one that we use. It's a lot more. Man, it's almost impossible. Okay. I guess I'm going to have to do it this way. All right. Here we go. This is basically the resume of Shane Bloom, who is now the Red Sox general manager. And remember, he's got a lot to live up to, right?
Of course.
But this is the resume that someone shared. Can you see that now?
Yes.
Okay. What it says is let Bogarts leave while getting nothing in return, which isn't 100% true because they did make a qualifying offer on him, so they're going to get a first-round pick. But traded Betts for Verdugo, Downs, and Wong. Traded Benintendi for Cordero, Winkowski, and prospects. Didn't re-sign Kyle Schwarber in last year, his first year with Philly. He led the National League in home runs. And then signed Trevor Story to a 6-year, $140 million deal. Story went out and hit 238, 16 home runs, 66 RBI in 94 games last year.
Listen, I'm no genius, but that's not too good.
No, it's not. And you have to kind of laugh because, first of all, if you know the fan base, if you know the Boston Red Sox fan base, they are not happy with any of this stuff, right? They are very, very locked in on what's going on in all things baseball. No matter what anyone tells you, I lived in the area in New York, New York and Boston. No matter what they try to tell you, Boston and New York will always be baseball towns. And when their teams are not doing well and their teams are not spending money, there is some situations. Just like nowadays, I believe Atlanta is a baseball town. Don't get me wrong, the state of Georgia still loves football. But the success over the years with the Atlanta Braves and the lack of success with the Falcons, the NFL takes a backseat to the Braves. The NBA takes a backseat to the Braves. Georgia Bulldogs, that's a different story. But that's not. But they don't really compete apples to oranges, to be honest with you, because they're not really in the same market, just on a television standpoint. But what do you get? Maybe 4 or 5 days a year that Braves and the Bulldogs on television would ever compete against each other. So, anyways, I just find it funny because I'd almost forgotten about the Trevor Story signing. And I remember when it happened. So at the time, one of our contributors who's a big Red Sox guy was on, and he was asking about it. I said, to me, it's a head scratcher. He hasn't been very good. And he was even worse than that. They were hoping they were going to get him into Boston, and he was going to be able to pepper the Green Monster. So when folks were talking about re-signing Xander or going after any of the other shortstops, I'd kind of forgotten about Trevor Story. Had been so bad. They obviously had shifted him over to second, but he'll just take over. It's cheaper for them to put him back over at short and try to find someone at a different position because Dansby's going to get overpaid. And we've got the comment up there by Maverick, who's become one of our insiders, as we like to call it here. We're the number one outsiders in sports talk. No one tells us anything. But he's saying that there's a rumor out there that Dansby Swanson could be heading to the Giants. I've seen that rumor as well. Here's the thing about the San Francisco Giants. They have struck out with Aaron Judge. They were being rumored on Xander Bogaerts. They are now being heavily rumored about Carlos Correa, and it sounds like they're not going to be able to sign Correa, so now they're pivoting once again.
And that means, and like you said, to me, that means they're going to overpay. They're going to overpay somebody big time.
Here's my question, and then I'll throw it to you. Just give me what you're – I just looked at Spot Track. Brandon Crawford is on contract for $16 a year through next year. So what do you do with Brandon Crawford, who is one of the best defensive shortstops in baseball? Right?
I mean, the Giants now are in one of those spots where they're going to definitely overpay somebody. And it's going to be a good player. If it's Dansby Swanson, I want him on the Cubs, but I know what the Giants are going to offer is going to be more, especially if they lose out on Correa. Now, if you're talking about adding a potential shortstop, Brandon Crawford, we all know his bat, but his glove has been so dominant for so long. Are you going to force him over? Probably going to have to if you get one of these top guys in Correa or Swanson, because I tell you what, there's not many pieces left to fall, and we're only going to have a few names, and they are going to get huge deals. I mean, what, Dansby Swanson now, maybe we see him get 9 or 10 years for $300 million. Is that going to be possible? I mean, I don't know. I mean, it could be crazy.
But what do you do, right? Here's my big, what do you do with Crawford if you sign Dansby? Crawford is not going to go play another position. He's too good defensively. So does Dansby say, okay, I'll go play? But Dansby's too good defensively. Are they going to try to convince Crawford to play third base? That would be my only thought, because he's way too good to play second. Has too strong of an arm.
And the Giants have a hole there. I could see him
move him. But then everybody knows someone's going to be able to take advantage of you. That's what they're going to be able to do. And that's when Anthopoulos steps in and goes and grabs Crawford for a bag of peanuts, and it makes the Giants pay half his salary.
I mean, yeah, you pay a guy, though, you're going to play him at his natural spot, right? You're going to have to move Crawford, because if you're going to give somebody 10 years for that much money, I think when it comes down to it, the fans are going to look, you paid this guy, you got to play him in the position you're paying him to be a premier player at.
When Xander was asked about when he was signed at the press conference and they asked him what position he's playing, he says he's playing shortstop. And all I can think of is, you're not a better shortstop defensively than Tatis when he comes back. So have they already told you that, by the way, it is confirmed Ross Stripling did sign with the San Francisco Giants 2 years, 25. So that has been confirmed. It was already kind of talked about a few hours ago, but they finally, it's been confirmed. But I don't know. The whole thing's dumbfounding to me, because I'm like, if you're going to make a move, why a shortstop when you have Brandon Crawford?
Now, I will say this, though. You know, unlike what my team is doing, the Chicago Cubs, I'd rather get a big name player and then figure out that issue than just strike out like it seems the Red Sox and the Cubs might do.
All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, I'm going to answer Maverick's question about Dansby Swanson's price, his hometown price. We'll be back in a flash, because I have heard and seen something about this. We will be back in just a moment here on Braves Country, WQEE, and Braves Country HD, wherever you stream.
But, I want to say one thing in all seriousness. I feel sorry for you people that don't drink. I mean it, because when you wake up in the morning, that's as good as you're going to feel all day.
Armchair.
Hey, sports fans. Weekdays, 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern. Drive Time on on WQEE. Braves Country is a Southern sports talk show with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. That's Braves Country with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. Weekdays, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. right here on WQEE 99.1 FM.
Hey, sports fans, it's Rod Peterson here, host of The Rod Peterson Show, inviting you to join us daily for 2 hours of Atlanta's funnest sports talk right here on WQEE. I say fun because it is. You've never heard a show like it because we make the listeners a part of the show every day between noon and 2 p.m. Eastern. You'll hear plenty of the best sports talk, including the latest on the Falcons, the Braves, and more. And who knows, you might even hear you. That's the Rod Peterson Show, daily at noon, right here on WQEE 99.1 FM.
You're talking about a bunch of unproven kids who were in the prom. You know, literally, they were in the prom like 6 months ago at their high school.
No,
That
they weren't
includes
because
grandmas.
they were on lockdown. Exactly.
Okay, they were at a
He's probably
These are
from a Big Ten.
pромless teenagers.
If he's from a Big Ten state,
They were at a.
if he's from a Big Ten state, he didn't have prom. I can guarantee you that.
They were at a virtual prom. Anyway, so yeah, it's tough for Wisconsin.
That's called
and,
porn. That's called porn.
Stop it. They get a break this week because I
got
don't
a
think
mess to clean up, guys.
Yeah.
Virtual.
There's my
prom.
walk off for the day. Thanks, Mac. I got to dry my keyboard out now.
Armchair.
You're listening to WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Noonan, Georgia, home of Braves Country with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks, weekdays, 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern, right here on The Key and YouTube.com at Braves Country.
I'm the dude. So that's what you call me, you know, that or his dudeness or duder or, you know, El Duderino if you're not into the whole brevity thing.
Welcome back. Yeah, I see the tweet by O'Brien, who covers the Braves for The Athletic, and he's referring to, look, I've been saying this for weeks, months maybe, because everyone wants to trade Eddie Rosario and Ozuna and all the cash that is owed to Ozuna and Rosario. I think I mentioned this in the first hour today, but left field is in Atlanta. If you decide to platoon it, right? Left field in Atlanta opening day is getting paid $25 million because Ozuna's getting 16 and Rosario's getting 9, and you could platoon the two of them and let's go. You can't trade them because nobody wants that money. If you trade them, you have to pay their contract. But you would be asking for prospects in return because you wouldn't be able to afford to pay their contract and get some stud, because no team wants that. Who wants that?
Yeah,
everybody plays MLB The Show, makes some goofy trade, and they think that's real life. It doesn't happen that way. Put yourself in their position. For instance, Joey, you're a Cubs fan, and I tell you I'm going to trade you Ozuna and Rosario, and you're going to give me Nico Horner and a top prospect. Why would you make that trade?
There's zero reason I would make that trade. Both players who have had decent careers, obviously, but both north of 30 years old. You got all that money. I know with today's contract, it doesn't seem like that, but it is. When you have to pay for these top players, all this comes back together. And for two platooning left fielders, why would my team, especially when you go to the Cubs example, give you a MLB ready player that has promise and a top prospect which is much cheaper for me, and then take on all that money with these veterans. I am not doing this trade. Not many teams are going to give young prospects for this trade. Now, maybe you could get somebody down the line if things shake out, like a Yankees or somebody who, might want a couple of veterans down the stretch, but I would not be seeing any top prospects flying off the shelves and people paying this money.
This trade done is if the two of them take off and have great years, and at that point, all the fan base will be like, "Oh, you can't trade them now; they're doing well." So
right, the Braves will probably be in a pennant race.
Right, like what are you getting back that all of a sudden? Oh yeah, this is a great idea. So the whole thing, you have to move on and realize we're stuck for the next 2 years because we've made terrible decisions in free agency. Now, I do believe Rosario can bounce back. I really do. And I believe if you platoon Ozuna against lefties, he can probably bounce back. And that's why it's kind of key in this whole trade for Sean Murphy. And I'm no longer putting on my Anthopoulos hat. Now I'm putting on my Brian Snicker hat, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I'm setting the lineup each day, assuming health and all that kind of stuff, on your typical day, if Sean Murphy's behind the plate, Travis d'Arnaud's my designated hitter. Unless you want to give him a day off. And on and depending on the starting pitcher, righty or lefty, Rosario is my left fielder against righties. Ozuna's my left fielder against lefties. And you may hate having Ozuna out there in left field playing defense. But you know what? How many plays really get affected by that in a regular season game? You're just going to have to deal with it.
And I was going to say the Braves got all the right young pieces in the right positions. You look at them, obviously you have Acuna, but you also, center field, starting pitching. You have the young places with controllable money. Left field, if you have to deal with a little bit of overspent value, these guys, like you said, can get bounced back. They're veterans. They're still not, way over the hill, 35, 36 years old. You could still get use out of them, to me, when this team's playing well next season.
And let's be honest, if we were playing MLB The Show, you never would have traded Contreras to begin with.
Correct.
You would have sent Ozuna or Rosario. All right. So back to the question that's on the screen. What would be the price for a hometown price to keep Dansby with the shortstop free agent market going on right now? I think if he really wanted to give the hometown price, I still think it sits like 6,150. 6 for 150. I do think he wants a longer deal. I think you could possibly get a situation where he signs a 6-year deal, and the thought process is if you're still doing well towards the end of that contract, we're in good faith, we would extend you again. But if he's not willing to take that risk, that's why he's going to be gone. If he's not willing to take that risk, and they're talking about him making somewhere around an 8-year deal and being much closer to 30, not quite 30, I don't think. But one of the rumors that I've seen come out about what San Francisco might be offering is 8 for 220. 7 for around 200. And that's when Anthopoulos clenches up a little bit and goes, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Could you see any deals possibly where, because I've been hearing some reports, like more with Correa, but you never know with Swanson too, where they take the, let's say, 3 or 4 year deal with the player controlled on the back end in the last couple of years and just take absolute crazy money per year, maybe 35, even more than that, and go with a 3 or 4 year contract where you get the player option at the end of it? Or are these guaranteed going to be 8, 9, 10 year deals probably for these guys?
Are you talking about Atlanta doing a crazy short deal with Dansby?
Possibly. No, not going to happen.
Because I'll tell you why. They are right at the cusp of the for lack of a better term, it's a salary tax, right?
Right.
And they're right there at the top of it. And if you're going to go over it, I don't think you're going to do it to bring Dansby. And also, I don't think Dansby wants a short contract. Dansby stays with the Braves if Dansby wants to be in Atlanta.
Fair enough.
Chipper Jones said the same thing. He told Freddie Freeman the same thing last year. But they're talking about Dansby going to the Dodgers and being reunited with Freddie Freeman. They're talking about, I know the Cubs have been a conversation. The Giants are a real player. I just because of the way that they've operated here recently, I'm not buying the Red Sox.
Nope.
If they want to go all in and bust the bank, there has been I've seen a rumor recently of the past couple of days from two or three writers up there in that area talking about the Yankees backing the truck up for Dansby.
Come on,
because I can't. I mean, come on. What the heck is IKF? You can always trade him away. But the problem with the Yankees and the Red Sox recently, and we all think of them when we're growing up and what they've always been, but it's not what they are now. They're out there clipping coupons for whatever reason, and the Mets are spending money like drunken sailors.
It's disappointing. Like I said, being a Cubs fan and all, you see all these teams, the Padres, we've talked about it, Mets, Yankees, on and onward. It's like, come on, let somebody else get a piece of the pie, but you got to be able to overspend. And that's what's killing us. In Chicago, we are killing our ownership right now for not spending the money. We have it. It's time. Why not?
I feel like we're going to get to a point where the fans are eventually going to wake. You know what? I just want them to sign with someone so we can move on, because the fans are a little delusional. And the fans keep thinking, the tweet that was being referenced, I see like 9 of those a day of some ridiculous. The only thing that was more ridiculous was what I talked about in the first hour, was someone working for MLB.com, a senior writer, talking about Max Fried being moved this offseason. That's not happening.
Come on.
Now, Buster Olney came back and debunked it, but he didn't even have to. They're not he's got 2 years left on his deal, and like I said before, if we're in the dumper at the All-Star break this year, and like have fallen off for whatever reason, injuries, whatever. All right, I could see it. You're going to get a haul. They probably wouldn't do it. They'd probably still hold on to him till next year. But when they get to the end of the trade deadline in 2024, and the Braves don't feel like they have a real chance of winning the World Series with him, they would probably make a move. They probably wouldn't trade him to a National League team. They'd make sure that he goes to the American League. But they might try to get something back. Or because Anthopoulos, let's say they are making a run and they don't trade him at the deadline in 24, then he's going to be okay with just getting the qualifying offer first round pick. Which you only get that nowadays from general managers that feel very comfortable in their job, which Anthopoulos has to feel, right? Because anyone you draft in Major League Baseball in the first round is not going to be ready to contribute on a serious level for at least a couple of years. Most of the time, it's 4 to 5 years, but it seems like they're coming up a lot faster nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm a Braves fan, you just got to be happy overall. I mean, not only are you set up to win in the past couple of years, you're set up to win the next 5 to 10. So no matter what they have to do, I feel like the Braves mostly have good problems to deal with, and it's a great spot to beat them with all the young talent that they had come up in the last couple of seasons.
So while we're on this side of it, because I want to get some NFL talk on the other side. Do you have your pick of the day? I've already got mine. I've already tweeted it out, and it's on the screen. My pick of the day is the Celtics on the money line. I'm never going to pick anything minus 200 or higher. I'm always going to try to keep something under. But I feel pretty good about Celtics minus 165. If you want to give it the 3.5, I can see that, but I feel better paying the extra and taking Celtics on the money line tonight. What say you?
Yeah, I like that, and I'm staying in the NBA myself. My bet of the night's going to be and it's going to surprise some people with how Pelicans are playing, but the Jazz on their home court, they've had 3 days off. They're getting a couple of 2 points to be exact. I'm taking them to beat I would actually take them outright to beat the Pelicans, but I'm going to take those 2 points and play with it right there. 15-14, the Jazz have struggled a little bit lately. The Pelicans have won 7 games in a row. Their streak has to end at some point. They still don't have Brandon Ingram, so I'm taking the Jazz +2 on their home court after having a few days off. A lot of people aren't going to love that, but that's my bet.
You know, I mean, especially on a Tuesday night when you're looking for some action, I've heard a lot worse. The only drawback on mine is it's a 10 o'clock tip-off, so who's going to stay up for that? But
hey, the green could always keep you up.
I don't believe that LeBron's Lakers are any good, and I think the Celtics right now are the best team in the NBA. I know they lost last night. If they had won last night on a back-to-back, I'd probably be more willing to go, I'm leaving that one alone, but they normally bounce back pretty well. Real quick, before we get into the National Football League and Week 15, that Senga signing by the Mets, I'm really interested to see how he performs, but there hasn't been a very good track record with pitchers coming overseas and performing well. Shohei Ohtani and Hideo Nomo are like the only two that I can think of. I know the Frog, what was his name? That pitched for the Yankees back in the day. But it seems like most of them get lit up.
Oh, Tanaka.
No, not Tanaka. I actually forgot to talk about Tanaka. He slipped my mind. The guy was I'll think of it in a minute. But anyways, he was a part of the Yankees dynasty. But not Matsui, the outfielder, but there was an actual pitcher. But anyways, considering the Mets and where their payroll is, their payroll is at $333 million right now, projected. And they're talking about that they might still be going out and getting more. I'm like, my God.
The rich get richer, although you got to have success.
You got to have a salary cap is what you have to have.
Well, yes, I agree.
Wilpon is just, I know the Mets were a disaster 5 to 10 years ago, and that wasn't good for the sport. But this isn't necessarily good for the sport either. But what I'm interested about that is if you look at their pitching rotation, there's a lot of question marks, even though everybody wants to give them praise. Scherzer broke down during the stretch. Verlander is 40 and had some rough outings down the stretch. Carrasco definitely struggled down the stretch. And then you have this Senga who's coming in to pitch Major League Baseball. When I figure his first go around, he's going to pitch very well. And then, but my curiosity is going to be when you hit the backside of the season and he's making his second and third start against teams they've seen him a second time. What's that going to be like?
Well, and I'm just not going to, I know a lot of people are high in the Mets. I try to be like, you know what? I have in our playoffs pick last year, I thought they make the World Series. Until they prove it and do otherwise, I'm sticking with the Braves because, yes, you can spend all that money in the world and collect all this talent. But unless you win playoff series and you get that title like the Braves did a couple of years ago, I don't really want to hear as the favorite because just because you spend the most money doesn't mean you're going to be the best team put together at the end of 162.
And the other thing that I find interesting, yes, they locked up Diaz, but they have not done much in the bullpen category. And it'll be interesting to see how big a check they're willing to spend. I mean, are they going to go up into the 400s to try to shore up that bullpen? Because bullpen moves have been kind of quiet so far. You don't have a lot of elites out there, but you have a lot of setup guys that are still available. And if they don't do something on the bullpen front, it's not going to do you any good to have a guy go out there 6-7 innings. In today's baseball, 5-6 innings.
I think they're going to regret that Nimmo contract too for 8 for 162. I think that one's going to come back to.
No, I like
bite
him
him a little
up,
bit.
and I don't think he's worth that.
That's what I'm saying.
But at the end of that contract, he's going to be playing left field. He's going to be batting about 260, and he's going to be slapping maybe 15 home runs over the wall, and he won't be stealing as well. I really like him right now for the next 2 to 3 years. But man, that is 8 years.
Going to be 30 going into the season.
Right, so he'll be 37-ish.
He ain't stealing much besides.
The only thing he's stealing is that paycheck from Wilkie. That's the only thing he's going to be stealing at the end of that contract. All right, let's take our last quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk some football and try to get the ship back right as Atlanta Braves, man, they are wheeling and dealing, but they're not doing what the Mets are doing, and a lot of folks are worried about that. We'll be back in a flash. Hey, sports fans, The Key has a brand new show. Braves Country is coming your way weekdays 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern. Drive time on WQEE. Braves Country is a Southern sports talk show with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. We'll be talking the Atlanta Braves and Major League Baseball, along with everything important to sports fans in Braves Country. The SEC, ACC, Big Ten, and the National Football League, and the big sports news of the day. That's Braves Country with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. Weekdays, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. right here on WQEE, The Key, 99.1 FM, and simulcasting on youtube.com/@Braves Country.
That's the sound of NyQuil Severe hard at work. NyQuil Severe is the best sleep with a cold medicine. No tossing and turning, just rest and recovery. So you're ready to take on tomorrow. For powerful relief of your worst cold and flu symptoms, try NyQuil Severe. The nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head, best sleep with a cold medicine. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Hey, Braves fans, the Armchair Quarterbacks YouTube channel are bringing you Braves Baseball all season long. Hi, I'm Mac McGee, and I'll be bringing you Braves Baseball play-by-play for the Braves fans out there, for all of Braves Country. So pull up an armchair and join us for Braves Country Baseball, first pitch to last pitch, Tuesday and Friday nights, right here on the Armchair Quarterbacks YouTube channel. Welcome back to Braves Country. Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks, weekdays 3 to 5 p.m. Drive time on WQEE. Boogity, taking you to the top of the hour where Farrell Coast to Coast is next. Of course, tomorrow morning, make sure to lock it in to The Key, 99.1 FM, Ryan on radio, 7 to 10 a.m. And after that, noon to 2, you got the Rod Peterson Show and Sports Beat from 2 to 3. You haven't caught those shows, about time you do. Make sure you lock into 99.1 FM WQEE in Atlanta, or just south of Atlanta, Nooner, Georgia. Okay. Let's go ahead and get into a little football talk.
Let's do it.
I do have to share one funny story.
Please
do. So today is actually my wife's birthday. We went out to dinner last night, and phenomenal dinner. We went to a Japanese steakhouse, and they put on the whole show, and hadn't done that in a long time. And phenomenal food. But anyways, we got a store-bought cake for that outing, because one of her very good friends, they were born on the same day. Now they weren't, there's no relation or anything like that, but they're just very good friends. They've known each other probably close to 15 years. And so she came out with us as well. And so we got a really good store-bought cake, et cetera, et cetera. But I told my wife that I was going to make her a cake for her birthday for tonight when she comes home. And for people who aren't aware of this, I'm a certified executive chef, so yes, I know my way around the kitchen, but I don't do it because I don't like it. And there's a reason why most of us, when we go into the profession, we either focus on the bake side of it, and those people become professional bakers. It's what they do. They love it because it's very simple process of basically being, it's basically the difference between baking and the general cooking will be this, for me to dumb it down. Baking, you have a very exact way of doing things, and if you mess it up, you've got an expensive mess. When it comes to the broader part of cooking, reason why most men are usually drawn to that is because you can kind of wheel and deal, and you can season, and if you don't do it just right, there's still ways to fix it, right? Correct. I'm on the phone with her today, and she happens to bring up, so how's my cake coming? Don't! That thing had been in the oven for about 45 minutes too long. I'd forgotten about it. With the colleague, and we were talking some upcoming broadcasts that I might be doing for him, some local stuff, and got off the phone, and I went back to editing, getting ready for today's show, and then of course some of the stuff that came across about Max Free getting tried. Even though I set an alarm, that alarm went off, and before I could stand up, my phone rang, and it was him. And that's the story of it.
Oh my god!
I'm like, oh, that's a disaster. So I still slapped a bunch of icing on it, so she has,
there you go,
blow out. But we didn't have anything, so I'm making a secondary brownie with her favorite kind of icing on it. But that's what she'll actually eat tonight. But I want her to at least have the cake. It looks great if you see, but it's not great. It's it's one of those.
You can judge a book by its cover on that one. Just look at the outside. It's beautiful, baby.
Well, it'll still do well to chop it up and throw it in some ice cream, right? And it'll be fine. But it's not something that I would suggest eating by itself, because I was like, my God.
Hey, your effort was there.
I was so ticked off. And I even mentioned it a couple of days ago. Someone tried to break a cake. She goes, baking cakes are easy. I said, yeah, for people who don't get their heads square up to the rear. I said, but there's a reason why I hate baking. It's because you either have to stand in that kitchen for 45 minutes waiting for the thing to get done, or you have to set a timer and then actually react to the timer. And I didn't react to the timer.
God forbid you have something else to do besides bake a cake, right?
I can't tell you how many times I've done stuff like that. I mean, just like oh man. And usually, and I can't believe I didn't do it this time. Usually if I buy cake mix, because they're so cheap, I'll buy 2 or 3, suspecting that I'm going to screw up the first one. It's not that it's hard to do, it's hard to stay focused and do it. That's what it comes down to. But anyways,
hey, now you got 2 desserts.
The secondary brownie one turned out fine, and it'll be fine. But I was like, my God, I can't not tell that story. National Football League, we're heading to week 15. And we'll talk more about this Thursday. And for folks that want to tune in, our YouTube channel is doing Seahawks versus 49ers Thursday Night Football. Tones will be joining me on the broadcast. And the game kicks off at 8:15. And the Keys talked about carrying it, but I don't know if that's 100% sure yet. But regardless, you can catch it over on our YouTube channel regardless. So we'll get more into that game on Thursday, Joey. But I want to talk about this upcoming weekend.
Let's do it.
And some of the games that are going to be big And I don't think there's anyone bigger than Bucks versus Bengals. And I contend that the Bucks are in trouble. I think the Bengals are playing really good football. The Bucks are not. It's the 425 game of the week. And if the Bucks lose that game, there's a very good chance they're going to be in a tie for first place with 3 games left.
It is, I mean, like you already mentioned it, at Cincinnati, I mean, they can't get much hotter than they are right now. Joe Burrow has put himself after missing the offseason. He's getting people involved. Jamar Chase has been out. He says, who cares? Because, not literally, but with his play on the field, getting other people involved. T. Higgins can't play. Joe Burrow makes things happen. And on the other side with Tampa Bay, yes, they have the great Tom Brady, but we've seen this year, especially last weekend, it hasn't been so great. For some reason, Mike Evans and him can't get on the same page. They're turning the football over. That was a ruthless but brutal interception by Tom Brady over the middle of the field. And they just can't. So, look, they're on their home field. To me, I won't say must win because they have everyone has a couple division games, being Atlanta, Carolina, New Orleans. They all could beat each other up at the end. But, man, you get to 6-8, Atlanta and Carolina are knocking right on the door. All it's going to take is a little bit of a divisional win for Atlanta against New Orleans, or all it's going to take is a little bit of Carolina winning on their home field against a mediocre Pittsburgh team led by Trubisky. Like you said, at the end of this weekend, the Bucs could be looking at tied for first place, and who would have ever thought that would be the case before the year if you would say the Tampa Bay Buccaneers be 6-8.
I see the comment by Matt talking about Cole Beasley. I saw this earlier and I almost wrote it down. I was like, I don't know. Is that news? Cole Beasley's going back to the Bills. I'm like, I don't know. I mean, is it news?
He had a cup of coffee in Tampa, didn't he, for a couple of weeks?
Well, he hasn't been what I would consider a threat in 2 seasons, I will say. But what's funny is there's someone that I follow on TikTok that's a big Buffalo Bills fan, and he was jumping up and down for joy because the Cowboys had signed T.Y. Hilton.
My God.
And he was basically saying that means that OBJ is coming to Buffalo. Everyone's like, dude, he's not playing this year. And I'm like, do you want OBJ at this point? Coming off of a major injury, and he hasn't been in camp. I feel like you're better off. I think OBJ is better off waiting till next year in the offseason to sign.
Because it can only get worse for him if he does sign now.
Well, if he signs now and no one gives, because what he wants is a long contract. No one's willing to do that. And so what you're talking about is a short contract that, let's be honest, probably could hurt your career. Because if you don't go out and impress after coming off this major injury and not knowing whatever offense you're going to, right? Then everyone's going to poke holes in you. You're better off going, you know what, dude? I'm going to show them the tape from 2021, 2022 playoffs before the injury, and we'll go from there. That's in. So if Cole Beasley is signing with the Buffalo Bills, that kind of tells me OBJ is not coming back. I'd be shocked if he does not at this point.
Yeah, and as a Buffalo fan, I mean, for the people that are happy about it, you could say, hey, the last couple of years he was here, he had 80-plus receptions. It obviously wasn't beautiful this season, and some of the offseason stuff got in the way of him. But he's had success in Buffalo. Hopefully he brings something back. At least he'll know the playbook, be able to jump right back in there. But I think Odell should wait as well.
I agree. I think he's better off just waiting till next year, and there's going to be so much movement in free agency like there always is.
Yes.
But Cole Beasley, man, I would be shocked if he is anything but a guy that's going to run a 2-yard button hook to try to get a first down.
Who does more, Hilton for the Cowboys or Beasley for Buffalo?
OBJ sitting on his couch.
I knew you were going to have something good for that.
T.Y. Hilton at this stage in his career is being signed in case there's a drastic injury. He's not unseating CeeDee Lamb. Gallup has been very good. Not to mention, hey, Schultz. Then, oh, by the way, some guy by the name of Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard are coming out of the backfield.
Pretty good.
He could be possibly brought in a 4-wide set, but it's going to be a few weeks. If anyone's thinking about this fantasy-wise, put whatever pipe you got down and quit smoking it, bruh. It's not going to happen. Speaking of fantasy real quick, Steven's going to be with us in the first hour. Tomorrow, we'll talk a little bit of fantasy. He'll be on for about 20-ish minutes. I think is what I have him for. How are your fantasy teams doing?
I got a couple teams moving on in second place, and actually they're leagues where 6 teams make the playoffs, so I actually get a bye week in each of those. The other ones I was eliminating, but the 2 I'm in second place, I get a nice week off, so it's kind of weird. In all my fantasy leagues, I don't have any really thing going. Either I'm out or I have a bye week this week, but I'll take a bye week anytime I can get it. It gets me into the final 4, and I'll see what happens. So
I've got a league. We don't have time, but if I told you the roster, you'd be like, what? They did not make the playoffs, and I looked at it this morning, and I by far have the most points scored, but I also have the most points scored against me.
Isn't that something?
It's crap. I ended up 7th in a league that 6 make the playoffs by 1 game. If I ended up in a tie with any of these people, I was going to blow the doors off it as far as a tiebreaker. But it's absolute crap. Feel pretty good about it, though. Team finished 6 and 7, scored almost 200 points this week. That's how loaded this team is.
Ooh.
That team started 1 and 6, so pretty good. But I ran into buzzsaws between weeks 1 and 7. I could have just gotten one more victory, I think. But in most of my leagues, I'm making the playoffs. I didn't make it in the trophy league. But that league, man, I'm like, dude, you got to come up with a better system when you're trying to draft and run a board and do the show at the same time, because that team was god awful. Like by week 4, and I almost made the playoffs. I was like, week before, I was like, who drafted this team? I didn't draft this. This isn't like anyone I would have on it. It was garbage, and it's a really difficult league too, because as you know, because you're in it, there's 2 flexes, and it's a deep league.
It is.
Which I kind of like that. It makes it more fun. But anyways, we got to jam out of here. What's your walk-off? Got about 10 seconds.
My walk-off is go Jazz tonight. If you need to make a play, I know the Pelicans have been hot, but the 7-win game streak ends tonight. Utah Jazz, take them in the points.
Celtics going to get the Lakers, and tomorrow I'm hoping we have a few more things. There's some rumblings going on. We'll get into tomorrow. Plus, I'm going to get more into in the first hour. Lead off with some of the Anthopoulos interviews and a couple other things that I have queued up. We will see you tomorrow, 3 to 5, and stay tuned on WQEE for Farrell Coast to Coast. We'll see you mañana.
Goodbye, sweetheart. Well, it's time to go. We're back tomorrow with another show. Well, unless we're fired, we'll talk to you then. Goodbye, sweetheart. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Guys and gals, it's time to go. We'll see you on the next show.
Same bat time, same bat channel.
Thanks for listening to Braves Country with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks on 99.1 FM WQEE The Key in Noonan, Georgia, and simulcasting on youtube.com/@Braves Country. Braves Country comes your way weekdays, 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern. Please follow, like, and subscribe today. Armchair Quarterback Radio, your first choice for Southern sports.
Something of the 5th of September. Something of the 5th of September. She said a lot that I can't remember. Something of the 5th. Can I get another cigarette, please? Can I get another cigarette, please? Yeah, I know I live to regret it. Just give me another cigarette, please.
You're listening to WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Noonan, Georgia.
Are you looking for a reliable dental practice that not only cares about your teeth, but is friendly to work with? How about one that offers great deals and new patient promotions? Well, your search is over. Most Valuable Smiles in downtown Eatonton, Georgia is committed to giving you the biggest and brightest smile. Right now, get a $99 new patient special, including x-rays and exam. Maybe you're looking for veneers. Most Valuable Smiles veneer special includes 1 free veneer with every 5 purchased. Or get that bright white smile you've always